Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Thank you everyone that submitted questions for this week's Arrow and Flash crossover episodes, as well as all the Suicide Squad stuff too. So I'm going to try and address all that stuff during this video. I got a lot of comments on Deadpool about why I wasn't doing a Suicide Squad video. It's mostly just a time thing. I already do a lot of DC videos during the week, so if I did more DC movie videos, it would be like DC all the time. So I just try to squeeze it in whenever I can, unless like new footage drops. Then I hit like a giant Muppet alarm button and stop the presses. Important stuff first though, so everyone's asking when all the shows are coming back in the spring. Technically it's still the winter, but Flash is back on January 20th. That's basically like the third week in January. Arrow's just back the next day after that. Arrow isn't confirmed. They're probably going to come back at the same time though. So question time. These will be just a mixture of Suicide Squad, Arrow, Flash questions. So number 1, Zenzort asks, is the Suicide Squad Deadshot dead now? So I assume you're talking about Arrow's version of Deadshot. No, he's totally fine. The actor that plays him went into the office. I think he was posting pictures on Instagram earlier this year. He'll appear the next time they have a Suicide Squad episode. They've actually had a couple name drops just because they dropped Cupid off there a couple of episodes ago. We will totally see them in the back half of the season. I would say in terms of the movie, yeah, there are probably a couple characters they're just going to sidestep, but the movies and the TV show can do whatever they want within reason. There are really only a couple characters that are off limits. Like Harley Quinn is a bit of a no-no. In Joker, obviously they can't do. The TV show, that is. Aside from that, as long as they're characters that aren't like super overexposed, like they aren't appearing in a bunch of other films or animated movies, it's usually totally okay for them to use new characters. It's really just a question of budget, like if they have the money to hire the actors to play whatever role they want. If you guys ever wonder why they don't want like the same character to be on TV and in the movies too, like Batman for instance, it's because of overexposure. Like that's what they're worried about. A really good example is Disney with R2-D2. So he was supposed to be in the Lego movie, but Disney said that they didn't want to overexpose him. The people that actually wrote the movie had already like written this big part for R2-D2. It was going to be really cool, but Disney said no way, so they couldn't do it. Which is actually kind of hilarious because Warner Brothers let Batman be in the Lego movie. Sometimes the logic doesn't always make sense, but Stephen Amell said that he had a lot of meetings with the movie people, and they kind of explained how they make decisions, and he was fairly satisfied, so if he's satisfied, then I can totally deal with it. We could totally do a bonus video about that at some point, about the way the business happens at Warner Brothers between the film and TV divisions, in contrast to Marvel. It's actually pretty interesting, but it's really businessy. Question number 2, Sergio asks, superpowers on Arrow, Canary Cry, anyone? You had like a series of question marks after that, so I took it as a question. So Mark Guggenheim originally said no superpowers on Arrow, but he's recently changed his mind. His hard and fast rule was no superpowers on Arrow. It was made to be like the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy, a very gritty, realistic crime drama with superhero characters in it. So the superhero part was always secondary to the characters in the crime drama, like the character development. There's the superhero moments, like whenever they're like punching people and capturing villains. Then there's the character moments whenever they're just talking to each other. So far, the strategy has totally paid off for them, but I think now that they're getting on in seasons, they're just able to have a little bit more fun with themselves, take it like a little less seriously. It's like they're inching toward that shawarma type moment where it's just completely ridiculous. I think TV has a little easier job with that than the films do because there's not so much money involved. It's just easier for them to take chances because they have 23 episodes a season versus just a one single like 2.5 hour movie. Just in terms of like the next superpowered person I'd like to see on Arrow, I mean, I'd like to see Ray Palmer get his Atom powers, like his shrinking powers. They said that they were going to do the Atom suit, but they weren't going to do some of the more comic booky aspects of his powers, most notably the shrinking part. Like they would save that if he went on The Flash. There was potential for Ray Palmer's character to go on The Flash in season 2. Now a lot of people are lobbying for him to stay on Arrow during season 4. They haven't made a decision yet. I mean, they've started to plot out season 4 based on what Stephen Amell said. They haven't even finished production on season 3 yet though, and they haven't been picked up for season 4 officially. So it's all just like in the ether right now. So if anything crazy with superpowers ends up happening on Arrow that we haven't already seen, just think in the direction of the Atom. Question number 3, BMC00. Will the announcement of the Suicide Squad movie affect future appearances on Arrow? Harley Quinn, wasn't sure about Deadshot and the rest. I kind of already answered some of that. I mean, largely not really beyond those big, A-list characters. If it's a character that's already appeared on the show, like if they've already established a character, Deadshot being the best example, they're not going to go back on that. They'll still let them use that character. And when I say they, I mean the film division letting the TV division do it. The film division has a little bit more say just because it's a little more profitable. There's a lot more money behind it, so they treat it a lot more carefully than they treat the TV division. It's kind of like walking on superhero eggshells around each other, which is a good reason about why I don't want to work in Hollywood that bad. Question 4, Jamie asks, am I the only one who was wondering how Boomerang got into the Arrow Cave and why anyone else didn't think about how he got in? Yeah, they kind of brushed over that. So what happened is Stephen Amell, Oliver, took the phone after torturing the guy. The phone was fake. It was meant to trace back the location of the Arrow Cave. So whenever they were analyzing it inside the Arrow Cave, Captain Boomerang traced the signal back. That's how he found the Arrow Cave. Your reaction was the same reaction that I had. I was like, wow, there are so many people that have found the Arrow Cave now. This is going to become a big thing. If you watched any of my videos from last season, like if you were a subscriber last season, I actually predicted that they might have a new Arrow Cave just because they pretty much destroyed the Foundry and they didn't even own Verdant anymore. I think there are a couple reasons why they stayed with the Arrow Cave they do have right now, most notably being their set design budget. I mean, it costs a lot of money to build that set. You don't really see it, but there's like light rigs and there's everything for where the cameras sit. So you get up into like the couple $1,000,000 whenever you build big sets like that. You know, for example, Doctor Who, I think the TARDIS that they built cost between like $2 and $4 million. I think it was closer to 2, but that's a lot of money. In fact, I'll say that's probably like the number one reason by far. It's just they don't have the money or they don't want to spend the millions of dollars it would cost to build another Arrow Cave. Question number 5, CW Pretty asks, who is your number one guess for who the Reverse Flash is now that we know, or the writers want us to know, that Eddie or Wells is not going to be who that is? So yeah, there was an image posted where Eddie and Wells are looking at the Reverse Flash, so it's very clearly not one of them as we know them on the show. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be a future version of them. It just means that the characters that we're seeing on the show right now, we've been seeing week to week, are not going to be the Reverse Flash that we see in episode 9. So number one pick, I'll say it's Professor Zoom. They'll go with Eobard Thawne from the future, like the far future. My number 2 pick would be a relative of one of the characters on the show. I will say Andrew Kreisberg has made official comments that it's really not someone that everyone has been talking about. So like all the most common things that everyone's been talking about, he said it's not those people. So just think in terms of like big twists. Like what is like a big twist that you have not thought of yet? My first thought was like a dark version of Barry, but I don't think that that's what it is. And we're not going to find out who it is. Like we won't find out which character it is for a long time, at least till the back half of the season. Question 6, Shadow Wolf asks, do you think the Calculator could show up on Arrow? Someone who operates like a worldwide communications network, like a founding member of the Secret Society of Supervillains. He's also been a member of the Fearsome Five, and he usually fights the Birds of Prey. So yeah, I think that's totally possible. He's actually, a supervillain who has fairly realistic powers. I mean, he's like a cyber terrorist. There's also an episode called Canaries in the back half of the season. I think that's mostly going to be a flashback episode because Katie Lotz said she was filming scenes for it. Katie Lotz was actually supposed to be in 3 episodes this season, and we saw her in the first 2. The third one was supposed to be a flashback. I think it'll be just showing a little bit of backstory about how she became the Canary the first time with the League of Assassins. Just think of it as a twist on the Christopher Nolan Bruce Wayne origin story with the League. Question number 8, Gerard, you actually make a comment about, which superhero won, Arrow or the Flash. So yeah, it's like a Batman versus Superman situation, and it's always going to be Batman, Oliver, always going to be like the dark hero because they don't pull punches. The reason why Batman can beat Superman is because Superman is never going to kill anyone. I mean, I should say he's never going to try to kill anyone. That's not why I think that Oliver is always going to beat Barry. I think it's just because Barry's such a rookie at this point. I think I already made the analogy, but it's like Barry is driving a really, really fast car without knowing how to drive. So he is going to lose every single race he gets into. And in this case, the race is like a fist fight. In the world of superheroes, like there's a wide disparity in the level of power each superhero, supervillain has. So it's really just a matter of who's the most experienced fighter. That's why Slade Wilson, the Deathstroke, is always able to kick the Justice League's butt. Or at least the Slade of the comics. The Slade of the Arrowverse just isn't quite there yet. So now to answer some big Suicide Squad questions. So I'm just going to answer the biggest ones right away. Obviously, the most interesting casting is Jared Leto as the Joker. He's an amazing actor. In terms of his performance, I have no idea what it's going to look like. Like if you watch Dallas Buyers Club, he's amazing in that as a transvestite. He can disappear into roles. So I think he'll be able to disappear into the Joker the same way that Heath Ledger did, but they're obviously going to be very different versions of that character. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Even the actors that I don't like for instance, Harley Quinn, I'm not a huge fan of the actress that plays her character, but I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. If you look at the cast, I mean, yes, it's an ensemble film, but there will be leads. Most notably, Tom Hardy and Jared Leto. That was when they were first talking about Suicide Squad, you heard Tom Hardy's name first, because they had to get that big A-list actor, like the really awesome guy, to attract all the other people. That's how a lot of movies get made. It's really funny. David Ayer, the director, arguably his best film is supposed to be Fury, which I have not seen yet. If you have a chance to see it at some point, you should. It'll be a good template for some of the energy that he might bring to Suicide Squad. That's going to be a very different kind of movie, but thematically they just tend to pick directors based on things they think they do really well. And Fury is kind of like a wartime ensemble film. Because Tom Hardy's playing the Rick Flag character, I'm actually wondering if they're going with an even more classic version of the Suicide Squad. Like there's the modern version of the Suicide Squad, and then there's like the 1980s, like the really old version of the Suicide Squad. Most of my experience with the team has been with the post-Identity Crisis Suicide Squad, like, post-2000. Just in terms of characters crossing over, the biggest potential is for Jared Leto's Joker to appear in the other films. He doesn't really exist inside the Batman-Superman universe that Zack Snyder's developing right now, but he will presumably at some point. It's really more of a Superman-driven film at this point than it is a Batman film. That's why you haven't seen like a Batman solo film on the schedule yet, just because I think most of the focus is behind Henry Cavill right now, not Ben Affleck. Although Ben Affleck was like a huge deal to cast. If there is a future Batman solo film, I do feel like Ben Affleck will get a crack at directing it and writing the script. He's a great writer, great director. It's just like watching what his Batman looks like, that's the big question mark. So don't forget, Air on the Flash, mid-season finales next week. Be sure to subscribe to get my videos if you haven't already. I will totally do bonus videos while they're away. It's only going to be 6 weeks, they'll be off the air. In the meantime, if you're on your mobile phone or your tablet, you can click up here for extra links. It's the same as the links over here, but click here for my Arrow Episode 8 video for the Brave and the Bold, and click here for the Flash vs. Arrow. Thank you so much for watching, so let's all high five. I will see you guys tomorrow.